How are you? Enjoying yourself?
Yes.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Okay.
This is essentially a Dehradun group. We're all sitting in Dehradun and attending
okay.
this.
At the end of
At the
You
end
got-
of,
Manjuji?
you've been muted somehow.
I must have muted me. Oh, I'm okay now. You can hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
I said at the end of this study, graduation, I want to invite all of us out for a meal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Huh?
sure.
We can meet before that also.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Graduation from this is when you get smarty.
Anubhav. No, I
Hmm.
think not. Itna Durga, I think she's not talking about that.
Yes.
Huh.
It's just
Do
this
not wait for graduation.
Yeah.
this session.
See, when you get a graduation degree, there's no guarantee we become sensible or we have learned everything. We just got the certificate that time. Okay.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Okay. Hopefully, after this graduation, we'll have some understanding. Okay. Any thoughts or questions or anything from yesterday? Manjuji?
No, yesterday was a simpler class.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yesterday we started talking about justice and how he's saying, without understanding, humans can't live out orderliness at any level, whether it's at the level of the individual, the family, the society. Without having understood ourselves and existence, we aren't able to live out any sort of orderliness. So we keep destroying things. We keep creating discord. And what we need is what understanding will lead to is this thing called, it will lead to all four of these things which are necessary: resolution, prosperity, fearlessness. Let's call Abhay fearlessness instead of, yeah, instead of security now, and coexistence. And he talked about how coexistence means, what does it mean to evidence the four of these? Coexistence means to live out complementarity. Fearlessness means to live out a trust in the present. Your prosperity means to be able to produce more than the requirements of your family. And resolution means to live out justice. And then you were talking about how we've been unable to live out justice because we have not understood what it means, what justice means. And therefore, essentially, what we haven't been able to live out the laws with the non-human nature, and we haven't been able to live out justice within the human-human engagement. And all of that is because of our lack of understanding. And then we were talking about how, there's been talk of the fact that we have justice in our society, but then he mentioned how even the courts of law, courts of justice actually are not doing any justice. They themselves say that they're not doing justice, that they're only doing decision making. And so in order to actually make some, live out some truth, when we say that we are doing justice, we'll have to really be able to understand. The only way to actually reach justice is when one individual understands themselves and coexistence. And then when slowly everyone understands and wants to live out this coexistence, then it emerges spontaneously. Then justice emerges spontaneously within them. Then they know what it is, and then they have the capacity and the capabilities and the receptivity, all of that, for living out justice. And then you're saying, why some people also ask why humans need to go through all this. Why aren't humans naturally born having understood everything? And on that, he says that the reason for that is because humans have sanskar conformity. That is, their properties, their behaviors unlike those of animal offsprings, are not based on hereditary properties. They are based on the sanskar that we find as part of society, growing up in society. So the beliefs and acceptances that we form as part of growing up in society, that is what our behavior conforms to. And essentially, sanskar is understanding. So our behavior will conform to our understanding. And if there is no understanding, then we will not be able to behave in an orderly, just manner, the way we are meant to. And that is because for humans, it is not living with orderliness has to emerge from within. It has to be swayat. It's not a given. It has to be spontaneous. There is, therefore, a need for some entity in nature. There is a provision for an entity in nature for whom orderliness is freely chosen and lived out in a self-motivated manner and not in a programmed manner, like with animals and plants and materials. So that is the reason for humans having to understand before being able to live with orderliness. It's a consequence of our freedom, actually. We are not programmed. We are free to choose. And because we need to become orderly in a self-reliant manner. In nature, in existence, there is this provision for self-reliance. Why there is a provision for that? That is also a good question that we haven't really come to yet. But that is what he was talking about. And then the fact that there is no, for all of this understanding, it comes from tradition. Since our sanskars are formed from the tradition. When we are born at the level of animals that are living according to their bodies. But beyond that, the understanding that we build, that is thanks to our personal efforts and the efforts for the larger society. And so personal individual effort and social efforts lead to an increase in understanding. And therefore it is not out of some sort of previously earned astral brownie points that were called punya that lead to living happily and living with justice. All of that is a result of your personal and social efforts. So your personal efforts and your efforts towards society and other individuals' efforts towards society lead to your greater understanding, a combination of this, Purusharth and Parmarth. And that there are no punya. So this is what we had reached yesterday. And then I think we can resume from there. And because until then, basically all the shiksha, all the education, all the systems, and the study that is provided for in tradition right now is all for living like animals. Whereas what we want to live as is humans. So as soon as you reach understanding, all of this kind of starts, you become liberated from all this training and from all these trainings, all these systems, all these education, all these teachings of living as animals. That's where we had ended.
समझदार होने के आधार पर ही हम सारा भ्रम से मुक्त होते हैं। भ्रम से मुक्त होने का मतलब जीवों के सदृश जीने की कार्यकलाप, शास्त्र, व्यवस्था और अध्ययन, शिक्षा, इन सभी पचड़े से छूट पाते हैं। अभी तक कि हमको जो कुछ भी मिला है वो यही मिला है, पशुओं के सदृश जिया करो। उसका उदाहरण, उसका गवाही पहले से ही प्रस्तुत किया। तो लाभोन्माद, कामोन्माद, भोगोन्मादी प्रवृत्तियों के लिए शास्त्रों को पढ़ाए थे।
Right. So I've already provided the testimony to the fact that we are being trained to live as animals, and that is that there is this obsession with profit, obsession with consumption, and obsession with sex in our education system, in our economics, in our sociology, and in our psychology.
उन्माद, कामोन्माद, भोगोन्मादी प्रवृत्तियों के लिए शास्त्रों को पढ़ाए थे। इन शास्त्रों को पढ़ाने का मतलब भी ये होता है तो जीवन के सदृश जिया करो। तो जबकि मनुष्य जीव नहीं है, जीव से भिन्न है, जीव से भिन्न प्रकार की प्रवृत्ति वाला है, जीवों में माने बहुमुखी माने अभिव्यक्ति नहीं है, मनुष्य में बहुमुखी अभिव्यक्ति है। मनुष्य जो
Right. So all this, the fact that we are trained in these three obsessions itself means that we are being trained to live like animals, whereas humans are different from animals. Humans have a very different nature than that of animals. Human nature is made up of a multifaceted expression, whereas that is not true for animals.
जो है ना समाधान चाहता है, गाय गोरु कोई भी समाधान चाहते नहीं है। और जो मनुष्य जो है ना समृद्धि चाहता है, मगर पशु पक्षी जो कोई समृद्धि कुछ नहीं चाहते हैं। और उसमें भी कोई तर्क आता है, कोई चीज जो चिरे।
So humans desire resolution, whereas no animal or bird ever desires resolution. Humans desire prosperity, whereas no animal or bird ever desires prosperity. And in that too, there is often this logic that is given, this argument that is given.
चीटी ये सब भी, ये भी तो संग्रह करते हैं, इस प्रकार की बात आती है। वो ये जो उपलब्धि के आधार पर संग्रह करते हैं, शोषण से वो संग्रह नहीं करते। उपलब्धि रहती है ला करके, उनका काम करने का आदत है, काम करने के आधार पर चीटी भी ला करके कुछ इकट्ठा किया रहता है, और मधुमक्खी भी किया रहता है, कुछ पक्षी भी किए रहते हैं, किंतु हाथी कुछ भी संग्रह नहीं करता है, बाघ नहीं करता है, भालू नहीं करता है। ये
So often this argument is given that even animals tend to hoard, but the difference is that animals hoard on the basis of availability. They are not hoarding based on exploitation. They have the habit of working. So when there is an availability of resource, they start collecting that. Ants collected, bees collected. However, animals such as elephants or tigers or cows, you do not see this tendency of hoarding in them.
कोई भी संग्रह करते नहीं है, ये तो आप देखते हैं। तो जो ये भी नहीं करता है, एक जो सुआ जो होता है, ये भी कोई संग्रह करता नहीं है। ये सब चीजें आप हमारे सम्मुख रखी हुई।
So you think that basically this accumulation that you see them do, they are not hoarding, they are not accumulating. They are doing, if they come across some material, then they have this instinct to continue working, but it is not that they are hoarding, because you would see that other animals are not constantly hoarding.
इसको शोध करने पर यह पता लगता है, जिनमें मेधा समृद्ध हुई है, सातों धातुओं से शरीर की संरचना हुई है जीवों में, और मनुष्य के संकेतों को ग्रहण करने योग्य रहता है, ऐसे पशु पक्षियों में संग्रह की कोई आसार नहीं।
And when you study this further, when you research this further, you find that in those animals in which the brain has been enriched with certain 7 elements, Sad Dhatu is an Ayurvedic way of analyzing the body's constitution. So there are 7 elements of the body that are talked about. So you're saying when you look at animals whose brains and nervous systems are enriched in a certain way with all 7 elements, in those animals, you find no tendency to accumulate.
कोई आसार नहीं, तो केवल आसार रहता है कहाँ? इस प्रकार की व्यवस्था जिसमें नहीं है, उस जगह में हो सकता है, चीटी में हो सकता है, इस प्रकार की बात है। चीटी
So where is this tendency visible? This tendency to collect and accumulate? Only in those animals where such a nervous system, such a brain is not present, such as you can find it possibly in an ant or something similar like that. A fully developed nervous system is what he's talking about.
भी संग्रह बुद्धि से संग्रह करता है, संग्रह के लिए प्रवृत्ति है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं। वस्तु मिलता है, इकट्ठा किए रहते हैं, वस्तु मिलता है, मधुमक्खी मधु को इकट्ठा किया रहता है, ऐसा रहता है। तो ये
And it's not as though the ant, even the ant, is collecting from some sort of intention to accumulate. It is because they come across the objects and therefore they collect it. Or similarly, the bees will come across nectar and they'll collect it.
जैसा जो मनुष्य में जो है, जो जानबूझ करके संग्रह की सुविधा की प्रवृत्तियां होते हैं, उसका कारण है भोग अतिभोग की वासना है और
Whereas in humans, they hoard resources. They do this intentionally. They have the intention of hoarding resources, and the only reason behind that is the desire for consumption is not true. Consumption or indulgence, consumption and overconsumption and excessive consumption. That is the intent behind it. Indulgence and excessive indulgence. It's for that end.
कुछ मतलब नहीं। इन भोग अतिभोग की वासना है और कुछ मतलब नहीं। इन आधार पर हम व्यवस्था में जीना लक्ष्य ना होकर संग्रह सुविधा हमारा लक्ष्य हो गई और उसके लिए भय प्रलाप बनी एकमात्र प्रताड़न के लिए आधार बना। फलस्वरूप हम प्रताड़ित रहे ही हैं और उससे छूटने के लिए एकमात्र उपाय यही है, तो जीवन को समझ जाए और अस्तित्व को समझे, मानवतापूर्ण आचरण को समझे। ये बात बंद है।
And so, as you can see, the goal of our lives has become comfort and accumulation rather than resolution and orderliness. And as a result of that, we live according to fear, and we live our systems through fear and greed. And there is all sorts of suffering and struggle that is found as a result of that. And in order to free ourselves from it, we must understand.
उपाय यही है, तो जीवन को समझ जाए और अस्तित्व को समझे, मानवतापूर्ण आचरण को समझे।
And the solution to that is simply that we understand the Jeevan, we understand coexistence, and we understand humane conduct.
ये बात बंद है।
That is the only thing that makes sense.
इन जो मूल तत्व हैं जो समझने की, इन मूल तत्वों के बारे में जीवन की जो पहले मुद्दा ये बताई गई, जो अस्तित्व की 4 अवस्थाओं में से ये बताई गई, मानव ही सर्वोच्च विकसित इकाई है।
So within the main elements that we have discussed, what has been talked about first and foremost is that humans are the most entities out of the 4 orders. Humans are the most superior unit out of all those found in the 4 orders.
शरीर के रूप में और जीवन के रूप में, दोनों स्थितियों में।
In the form of their Jeevan as well as in the form of their body. In both ways, they are the most superior.
दो जीवन अपने अस्तित्व को और जागृति को प्रमाणित करने के लिए शरीर को प्रयोग करता है। प्रयोग करने के समय में वो बराबर शरीर को जीवंत बनाए रखता है, बाद में जीवन को ही, शरीर को ही जीवन मान लेता है, फलस्वरूप पुनः मारा जाता है। और
And in order to evidence its existence and evidence happiness, the Jeevan utilizes the body and to live, and in doing so, it mistakes the body to be the Jeevan. And in mistaking the body to be the Jeevan, it considers itself to be killed.
शरीर को ही जीवन मान लेता है, फलस्वरूप पुनः मारा जाता है और पुनः शरीर को छोड़ने के बाद पुनः प्रमाणित करने के लिए आता है, पुनः मारा जाता है।
So, because it considers itself, it mistakes itself to be the body, it is killed when the body, it is killed when the body is died. And so to evidence itself, it again takes on a body. And then again, mistaking itself to be the body, it thinks that it has been killed when the body died. So this goes on.
इस ढंग से कई बार भ्रमित होकर के शरीर को छोड़कर तो जो परेशान होने वाली बात है वो होता है। इसमें पाप पुण्य नाम की
And in this way, several times, it leaves the body and is troubled by this entire process because it believes that it's been killed. And there is not, that is something that troubles the Jeevan, that it feels that it has been killed so many times.
कोई चीज होती।
Trishta, one question. This Ayurveda ke hisab se the 7 elements, which makes the complete constitution of highest level of constitution, that is available in humans. Like, what are the examples of other animals that have this complete constitution?
All mammals and reptiles, all of them have it. It's only like simple insects that don't have a complete nervous system. You can actually study it through biology also. Those who have a completely developed nervous system and not just, dangling cords or
Understood.
nerves by way of nervous system. Those who have a central nervous system and peripheral nervous system that are completely integrated. The 7 elements are just things that are also recognized in biology. I mean, it's just that they are not considered the only 7 elements. So that's not the classification that they make. It's like muscle, marrow, blood. I forget now. ऐसे ही कुछ है, but
No problem. Understood.
you can look it up.
And in that, those only human is one who's doing sangre, none other is doing any kind of sangre.
Yeah, he's saying
Good.
basically all those who have a rich nervous system, those animals have Jeevans running them. And of those, the humans is the completely enriched nervous system. And therefore, the Jeevan is able to express itself completely through it. But of all of these animals that have Jeevans running them, none of them participate in this sort of hoarding behavior other than humans.
Got it.
नहीं है, समझदारी ना समझदारी होती है। समझदारी परंपरा से ही आता है, परंपरा में ही समझदारी को पनपना होता है। इसमें पाप पुण्य नाम की कोई चीज होती नहीं है, समझदारी ना समझदारी होती है। समझदारी परंपरा से ही आता है, परंपरा में ही समझदारी को पनपना होगा।
Right. In this, there is no such thing as sin and virtue, sin and punya, pap and punya. There is only understanding and lack of understanding. And understanding only comes from the tradition. We only receive understanding from the human tradition. And and understanding is only evidenced in the human tradition.
तो कोई एक व्यक्ति हम समझदार हो गए, इससे संसार तर जाएगा, ऐसा कुछ नहीं होगा।
So just because one person, this one individual, I have understood everything, that will not help the world overcome its difficulty.
तो एक व्यक्ति समझदार होने मात्र से सब तरेगा, ये कल्पना ही हमको बहुत कुछ मैंने भयभीत कराया, निरीह बनाया और जो कुछ भी बनाना था बना दिया।
So this imagination itself, that one person's understanding will help the entire world overcome, that one person will help all of humankind overcome, that itself has been a large cause of making us fearful, of making us nirih. I'm not sure what that is. What?
भयभीत कराया, निरीह बनाया और जो कुछ भी बनाना था बना दिया।
I don't know if either of you know what nirih is. I don't even know how this will be spelled. But yeah, I think it means dependent, fearful and dependent. It's made us sort of, not empowered, dependent and always waiting for some savior to come along. So unempowered, I think, is the general feel of this word. But I don't know. I have to check. I've never heard it before. So yeah, such and whatever else it had to make us, this such kind of an imagination has left us in this state that we are in.
इससे छुटकारा पाना सभी चाहते भी हैं, यदि कोई कोई नहीं चाहते हैं, कल चाह जाएंगे, ये इससे छुटकारा पाना आवश्यक है.
And it is true that and people also want to be freed from such thinking. And even if people don't already feel the need to be free from such thinking, that's all right. They will feel the need to be freed from such thinking eventually, tomorrow. And it is necessary to be freed from such sort of thinking. And what is this thinking? This thinking is that one person will understand everything and help all of us overcome. There will be one savior of humankind.
ढंग से हम समझदारी के पक्ष में सोचने के लिए बहुत सारा उपाय बनी हुई है. उसके बाद ये जैसा
What is that?
आवश्यक है. इस ढंग से हम समझदारी के पक्ष में सोचने के लिए बहुत सारा उपाय बनी हुई है.
In this way, there are many such cues for us, cues to orient us to think in favor of our own understanding. Basically, this is one reason that we must feel the need to understand ourselves. Then there are other different reasons one can pick up why it is necessary for me myself to understand, for all of us to understand. He's saying in this way, this is one of many cues that orient us towards favoring understanding.
उसके बाद ये जैसा हम समझदार हो गए, अस्तित्व समझ में गए, दोनों समझ में आ गया, तो मानवीयतापूर्ण आचरण एक बहुत स्वाभाविक बात बनता है. मानवीयतापूर्ण आचरण क्या चीज होता है, ये भी एक पूछने की, समझने की बात बनता है.
So in this way, once we've understood the existence as coexistence, once we've understood our Jeevan and all that we have understood, then humane conduct becomes a very natural thing that emerges. And so then it also becomes a relevant question, what really is this humane conduct?
मानवीय आचरण क्या चीज होता है, ये भी एक पूछने की, समझने की बात बनता है. मानवीयतापूर्ण आचरण
It is worth asking and worth understanding.
यही है जो स्वयं में हर मनुष्य अपने में स्वधन, स्वनारी, स्वपुरुष, दयापूर्ण कार्य व्यवहार के रूप में जी पाता है. ये
Now, humane conduct is simply that each human being is able to live in, as swadhan, righteous wealth, righteous spouse, and kind work and behavior.
स्वनारी, स्वपुरुष, दयापूर्ण कार्य व्यवहार के रूप में जी पाता है.
Okay. Humane conduct is essentially that each individual is able to live with righteous wealth, righteous spouse, and with kind work and behavior.
ये समझदार मनुष्य होने के बाद स्वायत्त होता ही है आदमी. वो प्रमाणित करने जाता है तो परिवार स्वायत्तता होता है, जिसमें समाधान, समृद्धि दोनों प्रमाणित होता ही है.
And upon understanding in the individual, this happens very spontaneously. The individual is able to live this out in a self-reliant manner, very spontaneously. And then upon living it out, as a consequence, their family is also able to live out some sort of resolution and prosperity as a consequence.
परिवार स्वायत्तता होता है, जिसमें समाधान, समृद्धि दोनों प्रमाणित होता ही है. समझदार मनुष्य होने के बाद स्वायत्त होता ही है आदमी. वो प्रमाणित करने जाता है तो परिवार स्वायत्तता होता है, जिसमें समाधान, समृद्धि दोनों प्रमाणित होता ही है.
So upon understanding, the individual becomes self-reliant, and then when he goes on to evidence this self-reliance, that leads to the family becoming self-reliant in the form of it becoming resolved and prosperous.
हर मनुष्य किसी परिवार में ही प्रमाणित होना है, अकेले में कोई प्रमाणित होने का जगह नहीं है.
Every individual, each human being is going to be evidenced in the family itself. There is no space for humans being evidenced in solitude, in isolation.
और ढका मूंदा विधि से कोई प्रमाण होता नहीं, होना ही नहीं है, कभी नहीं होना है. तो इस विधि से क्या हो गया?
And there is never going to be any evidence which is shrouded or silenced. It's not going to happen. That is just not the way things are.
आदमी को प्रमाणित होने की आवश्यकता सदा सदा एक बचपन से, शिशुकाल से ही बनी हुई है. उस आवश्यकता को पूरा किया जाना आवश्यक.
So in this way, for each individual to be evidenced is a need that is present in each human being since birth, and it is necessary for it to be realized.
बनी हुई है, उस आवश्यकता को पूरा किया जाना आवश्यक. जैसा ही इन हमारा ये तीनों बात निभ पाता है, स्वधन, स्वनारी, स्वपुरुष, दया, पूर्ण कार्य व्यवहार निभता है, उसी के साथ साथ हमारा तन मन धन रूपी अर्थ का सदुपयोग, सुरक्षा करना भी बनता है. और ये दोनों सत्ता है.
So as soon as we are able to live out this righteous wealth, righteous spouse, and kind work and behavior in right away, as soon as we are able to live that out, we also begin to be able to utilize our, put our body, our mind, and our resources to good use, put them to right utilization.
कार्य व्यवहार निभता है, उसी के साथ साथ हमारा तन मन धन रूपी अर्थ का सदुपयोग, सुरक्षा करना भी बनता है.
Right. So as soon as we are able to live that righteous wealth, spouse, and kind acts and behavior out, we are immediately after that, we are able, thanks to that, we are able to put our minds, bodies, and wealth to right utilizations, and also in that way to secure them. So right utilization and security, these are two things that are considered to be policy. That's I'm just highlighting these two words. Sadupyog suraksha, tan man dhan ka sadupyog suraksha. So the right utilization and security, securing, protection of our bodies, our minds, and our resources.
और ये दोनों सत्ता है, उस स्थिति में संबंध, मूल्य, मूल्यांकन उभय तृप्ति वाला भी अपने आप से प्रमाणित होता है.
And when both of these, this this bar of righteous wealth, spouse, and acts and behavior, that first bar and the second bar of right utilization and securing protection, when both of these are met, then we are naturally able to live out our relationships in way of by way of mutual fulfillment. We are able to have live out mutually fulfilling relationships.
संबंध, मूल्य, मूल्यांकन उभय तृप्ति.
In the way, so we are able to live out justice as sambandh, relationships, values, evaluation, and mutual fulfillment.
रूपी अर्थ का सदुपयोग, सुरक्षा करना भी बनता है. और ये दोनों सत्ता है, उस स्थिति में संबंध, मूल्य, मूल्यांकन उभय तृप्ति वाला भी अपने आप से प्रमाणित होता है. ये इस ढंग से जो मूल्य, चरित्र, नैतिकता के रूप में.
So when those two powers are met, very naturally and automatically, we are also able to live out relationships, values, evaluation, and mutual fulfillment. So in this way, our Mulya Charitra Naitikta. Mulya is we are able to live out humane conduct in the form of values, character, and not policies. How do we ethics, yeah. Value, character, and ethics. We are able to live out Mulya, Charitra, and Naitikta. Ethics is Naitikta.
संबंध मूल्य मूल्यांकन उभय तृप्ति वाला भी अपने आप से प्रमाणित होता है। ये इस ढंग से जो मूल्य चरित्र नैतिकता के रूप में संयुक्त रूप में मनुष्य का आचरण व्याख्यायित होता है।
In this way, the human being's conduct can be described as a composite of this values, character, and ethics.
ठीक है, ये मानवीयतापूर्ण आचरण का मतलब ऐसा बनता है।
So this is what is meant by humane conduct.
तन मन धन रूपी अर्थ को हम सदुपयोग कर पाए, सुरक्षा कर पाए, उस स्थिति में नैतिकता कहलाया। हम आज
When we are able to correctly utilize and secure, protect our bodies, our minds, and our resources, that is considered as ethics.
किसको सुरक्षा कर पाए, उस स्थिति में नैतिकता कहलाया। हम आज किसको नैतिकता कहते हैं, आप ही सोच लो, आप ही मूल्यांकन करो। ठीक है, मूल्य मूल्यांकन माने संबंध मूल्य संबंध।
What we consider ethics today, well, that you yourself can think about. You can evaluate for yourself what it is that we call ethics today.
ठीक है, मूल्य मूल्यांकन माने संबंध मूल्य संबंधों को पहचानने की विधि से ही मूल्यों को निर्वाह करने की प्रवृत्ति बनती है।
Okay, then we come to values and evaluation, or relationship and values. So it is only on the basis of identifying relationships that we find ourselves in the state of being able to live out the values.
जैसा कोई भी आदमी अपने पिता का संबंध को पहचान लेते हैं, माता का संबंध को पहचानते हैं, गुरु का पहचानते हैं, संबंध को पहचानने का फल ही है मूल्य अपने आप से बहने लगता है।
So, like any individual recognizes, identifies their father, recognizes the relationship with their mother, or recognizes the relationship with their parent, the very act of recognizing that relationship itself is that those values start flowing. Though, yeah.
संबंध को पहचानने का फल ही है मूल्य अपने आप से बहने लगता है। मूल्यों का निर्वाह,
yeah, they begin to flow. The consequence of recognizing a relationship itself is that values begin to flow on their own. The corresponding values begin to flow on their own.
होना ही होना है। जहाँ संबंधों को पहचानते नहीं है वहाँ कोई मूल्यों के बहाव होता नहीं।
So the flow of values has to happen. And when we are not able to recognize a relationship, there no values flow forth from the individual.
इसको अच्छे तरह से रेलवे डब्बे में देखा जा सकता है। रेल की डब्बे में कोई भी बैठा रहता है।
This can be seen very easily, very clearly in a railway carriage.
एक अजनबी आदमी आता है, वो उनका अपने आप से हाथ पैर लंबा हो जाता है। इच्छा होती है यहाँ कोई बैठे ना करे। वही थोड़ा देर के बाद उनसे पहचाना हुआ कोई आदमी आ जाता है, अपने आप से उठ के खड़े हो जाता है।
In a railway carriage, when some random stranger enters the carriage, automatically people spread themselves out wider, so that that person doesn't have any place to sit around them. And similarly, if On the contrary, if someone that they know arrive in the carriage, automatically they stand up to make space for them.
और उनको बैठा देता है, वो खड़े ही रह जाता है, बाजे ये भी देखा गया है। ये सब चीजों को देखने पर पता लगता है।
If someone they recognize turns up, then they'll stand up to make space for them, make them sit down on their seat and remain standing. That has also been seen.
खड़े ही रह जाता है, बाजे ये भी देखा गया है। ये सब चीजों को देखने पर पता लगता है संबंधों को पहचानना ही एक बहुत बड़ी भारी मूल्यवान काम है।
And on this basis, it has been recognized that identifying relationships is itself a very major act, the identification of relationships.
संबंधों को पहचानना ही एक बहुत बड़ी भारी मूल्यवान काम है।
It's a very major and valuable act.
संबंधों के बारे में अध्ययन जो होती है ये पूरा का पूरा प्रयोजन के आधार पर होता है।
Regarding relationships, when there is a study done on relationships, that is always done on the basis of some purpose.
जैसा माँ का संबंध पोषण रूपी प्रयोजन के आधार पर, पिता का संबंध संरक्षण रूपी प्रयोजन के आधार पर हम अध्ययन करते हैं। गुरु
So when we study relationships, they're always done on the basis of purposes. For instance, the mother relationship is understood in terms of the purpose of nurturing, and the father's relationship is understood in terms of the purpose of securing protection.
का संबंध प्रामाणिकता के आधार पर हम अध्ययन करते हैं। गुरु का संबंध प्रामाणिकता के आधार पर, प्रामाणिकता रूपी प्रयोजन के आधार पर अध्ययन किया जाता है। ये संबंध यदि सब पहचानने में आ जाए, उसके बाद मनुष्य गलती नहीं करता।
And the teacher's relationship is studied or understood with the purpose, as having the purpose of evidencing. Pramanikta is authenticity and evidencing. That is the purpose of the teacher. And once the relationship is identified, once the relationship is recognized, then humans don't commit mistakes.
सब पहचानने में आ जाए, उसके बाद मनुष्य गलती नहीं करता।
Krishna?
Prachi?
Yes. Question is, can you elaborate a little more on, like, I understood mothers is nurturing and fathers is this little vats wala aspect.
Sanrakshan.
Sanrakshan, protection. What about a teacher? What did you say? I did not understand. I understood pramanikta, evidence, but can you say a little more? Like, it's not as clear as I get my father.
Yeah. So one goes to a teacher because they wish to understand. And understanding means that they're able to live it out also. There must be some evidence of having understood. So the purpose of going to the teacher is because you realize that they have evidence. If you'll only go to them if they have evidence of having understood what you wish to understand from them. No? If you feel like there is some indication that they have understood what you wish to understand. So the purpose with which you go to a teacher is so that you can understand, and then you can evidence that understanding, because you feel they have done it, so they will help you do it.
Got it. They help you prove what thoughts you have, that they help you how to get,
not your thoughts, but whatever you want to understand. Say you're going to a teacher to learn stitching, you maybe that's one thing you've gone to learn. So you want to, the purpose of that relationship is that you are able to stitch at the end of the day. In fact, we were just talking about that degree and graduation. Often we don't have what we hoped to get after getting the degree also. So, maybe we haven't understood after graduating when we get the degree. But the purpose of that relationship is that if you've gone there to understand stitching, then you should be able to stitch at the end of that education. That is its purpose, that relationship.
That and you being able to stitch is the evidence of it's like your learning is evident, is what you mean basically.
Yeah. What you have understood has become evidenced. So you understood stitching, the evidence of that is that you can stitch.
So then can I say visible learning is what is the role of teacher? That in a way, like if I using the example of stitching, which is actually very simple and nice to visualize, any art that if I understood, then I am able to do it. Like simple, even the concept of Jeevan Vidya, he's saying that praman is कि आप फिर दूसरे को समझा पाएंगे. The evidence of learning is that you know that and that is visible in some form. Tangibly, that learning, you're able to evidence that learning. So in case of stitching, it's a stitch. But in case of abstract values like such as Jeevan Vidya, then you will be able to share it with other persons. So that is the, in a way, evidence of learning.
Yeah, he's talked about it in two ways. And if I were to continue this example of stitching, it will be that one evidence of stitching is that you will be able to stitch. And another evidence of stitching that you have understood, learned stitching, is that you will be able to teach someone else to stitch. So both of these are evidences. Gene may be praman, there's evidence in one's living, and also an evidence in one being able to carry it further to the next person and then to the next. Transfer, yeah. So when we are understanding what it means to be human from a teacher, that is like your ultimate teacher. Then what you want from them, the purpose of that relationship is that you become humane at the end of the day. And so pramanikta is a word which sort of like evidencing, but it is also another translation for it is authenticity. You are able to authentication. You're able to authenticate what you have understood, not authenticity.
Got it, Disha.
संबंध जब तक पहचानने में नहीं आता है तब तक गलती करना भावी है. गलती किए बिना रोका भी नहीं जा सकता. गलती नहीं करना है.
Until we've understood, as long as we have not understood the relationship, till then it is likely to make mistakes. Until then, mistakes are likely. Mistakes cannot be stopped in such a situation. You will necessarily end up making mistakes.
चाहे कुछ भी हो.
No matter what.
तो ये इतना बहुत ही धूप जैसा सत्य है, तो समझो या ना समझो वाला बात है. समझने.
So this is a truth, like it is a truth like sunshine, he says. Either you understand this or you don't understand this. This is a truth which is like sunlight, very evident.
पर गलती होना नहीं है, ना समझे गलती हुए बिना रहना नहीं है. इतने.
That is that if you understand, then there is going to be no mistake. And if you don't understand, then there is no way you can go without committing mistake.
यही बात है. तो राज्य की सबूर देखने से, धर्म की सबूर देखने से पता लगता है अपराधियों के लिए ही ये सब बना हुआ है. धर्मतंत्र और राजतंत्र.
So when we look at states as in state governments, when you look at the government, or when you look at religions, you realize that all of that has been built for criminals. This entire state system and this entire religious institution.
तो क्योंकि अपराध को तारना ही, अपराधियों को तारने वाला भी एक गुण मानव परंपरा में बना तो है. तारने के लिए जो कुछ भी युक्ति रचाया, राजतंत्र अपने ढंग से रचाया, धर्मतंत्र अपने ढंग से रचाया.
Because all of this was built in order to improve or to what's the word here? Correct. Criminal correction. It was built for criminal correction in their own ways. So the state system built it in one way, and the religious institutions built their own system in another way. But both of these were for criminal correction.
राजतंत्र अपने ढंग से रचाया, धर्मतंत्र अपने ढंग से रचाया. किंतु है तो मूलतः कहीं न कहीं गलती की ही बात है. ये गलती गलते रहेगा आदमी, यही मान करके सारा रचनाएं हुई.
However, fundamentally, it is still all about mistakes because they assume that humans will necessarily remain mistaken. And it's on the basis of this maxim that the entire system has been set up.
वो सर्वथा गलत.
Here, I think I got it, but I just want to clarify. First thought which I got when he said these systems are for criminals, I thought that he's trying to say that the design is such that only criminals will fit
Do
to
well.
be part of systems to be there. But I think this is not what he's saying, na? He's saying that
No.
they're designed keeping in mind that humans will make mistake, and so you have a corrective system to correct these mistakes. तो आप कभी धर्म से करते हो, कभी state judiciary से करते हो, believing that people will make mistakes.
Yeah. Whether it's through constraints imposed by religious institutions or constraints and corrective measures imposed by state institutions. It's all about managing humans, essentially, managing potential criminals.
हो गया. हर मनुष्य समझदार होना चाहता है, परंपरा उसको दे नहीं पाता. हो गया करके सारा रचनाएं हुई. वो सर्वथा गलत हो गया.
Whereas this is entirely incorrect.
हर मनुष्य समझदार होना चाहता है, परंपरा उसको दे नहीं पाया.
Each human wishes to be knowledgeable, and it is just that traditions have been unable to give it to them, provide knowledge to them.
सीधा सीधा बात.
It's as straightforward as that.
तो हर मनुष्य ईमानदार होना चाहता है, वो ईमानदारी का रास्ता दिखा नहीं पाया.
Each human being wishes to be sincere and honest, and the tradition has been unable to show the path towards sincerity and honesty.
हर व्यक्ति जिम्मेवार होना चाहता है, जिम्मेदारी का प्रयोजनों को हम लोगों परंपरा को दे नहीं पाए. पहले से हम
Each individual wishes to be responsible, yet no purpose for responsibility was provided by tradition. Like the tradition could not provide any purpose for being responsible, like what to be responsible in, what to be responsible for to individuals.
प्रयोजनों को हम लोगों परंपरा को दे नहीं पाए. पहले से हम ऐसा मिसाल दे नहीं पाए परंपरा में, इसीलिए हम पिछड़ गए. और हमारा जो कुछ भी अरमान थी तो भूमि माने शुभ की.
We have been unable to provide any such examples in tradition, and therefore all our hopes and aspirations regarding these have kind of fallen behind.
भी अरमान थी तो भूमि माने शुभ की. तो कई पहले भी बहुत सारे लोग ये कामना की है, सबका शुभ हो, सबके लिए कल्याण हो, सबके लिए मंगल हो, सब जो है ना माने तर जाए. इस प्रकार की बातों को तो बहुत सारे लोग दोहराए हैं, इसमें हमको कोई शंका नहीं है. ये दोहराने मात्र से हमको क्या उसका रास्ता मिल गए, उसके रास्ता नहीं मिला. जिस
So all these aspirations and wishes of this earth that is of wellness or fortune for the entire planet. There have been so many such wishes, prayers for the entirety of humankind, for universal welfare, for universal uh, happiness, for universal goodness, and for universal overcoming. There have been many such prayers and aspirations towards this. Of that, I have no doubt. People have prayed for this and wished for this. But what did you say?
बहुत सारे लोग दोहराए हैं, इसमें हमको
Several
कोई
people
शंका
have
नहीं।
talked about this.
ये दोहराने मात्र से हमको क्या उसका रास्ता मिल गए, उसके रास्ता नहीं मिला। जिस
But several people have repeated such prayers and such aspirations. But does repeating these prayers and aspirations mean that we have found the way to reach that state? That is not the case.
किताबों में लिखा रहता है सबका शुभ हो, उसी में लिखा रहता है यह सारे संसार झूठा है और केवल परमवत असली माँ बाप केवल ईश्वर ही है।
In the very books that say that there must be universal welfare, those same books also say that this entire world is a lie and the only true parent is this God.
उन्हीं के शरण में जाना चाहिए, यही किताब में लिखा रहता है।
And that it is only towards them that we must find our shelter. That these contradictions are given in the very same books.
तो अब किसका सबका कल्याण होगा? असली माँ बाप के पास जाने के बाद जो गया हुआ का अस्तित्व रहना नहीं है, अब किसका कल्याण होना है?
So then whose welfare will there be? If we go to our one true parent, God, then there will remain no other person around. I mean, there will be no other. They're saying all others are actually just false, and there is only one true shelter. So then whose welfare are we even talking about?
जब वो स्वयं में मैंने असली माँ बाप कल्याण स्वरूप ही है, फिर बाद में अकल्याण के लिए ये सब काय को परेशान पैदा।
And if that one true,
sorry, I have to leave because I told them to come after 7:30. They'll come dot 7:30.
Okay, it is dot
Can I leave?
7:30. We'll continue this.
You continue for a while, no problem. I'll catch up.
Okay.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Adishta, I have one question, but it's general question. So if you want to stop recording, you can, and then maybe we can
ask.
speak for 2 minutes. Okay, so it's not from this. I was just listening to it, I was pondering that only way amidst anything to really have any change is that so there are two ways. One is to you solve the problem, and one is you solve the root of the problem. So the root is manviya samajh ki kami. So the only real way in long-term solution to fix things is that can we bring this samajh in more and more people? So my question to you is that so I think it's a exponential effect which will happen at some point where things will tip. That Jeevan Vidya is happening. Let's say Jeevan Vidya is happening, and then more people are becoming slowly really knowledgeable in it, like in-depth understanding, solid in it, and then they might end up, few of them might take it up and become facilitators, because once you understand that this is the most important thing, then I think something in that person will arise that let me share it with more people, because this is the most important problem statement to solve for if you want to really change anything. So now then there are more people, and then these more people will take it to more people, and at some point that enough number will become that it will then exponentially increase that samajh in number of people, because the number of Jeevan Vidya is happening, or how that knowledge is transferred in much more exponential speed, because
Many
you've reached that
different ways.
certain point. So the question here is that have you seen that curve of reaching that tipping point where, like, in being associated it for whatever 10 years more, thoroughly. Then before that, you might be younger. So, have you seen that it is like what is the path you have seen in 10 years of how it is proliferating? Have you seen it or no? It hasn't come into
Of
visibility as
course.
of yet.
No, of course, there's a very, very visible exponential curve. And because it's exponential, even you can see it within a span of 1 year that you've been associated. The number of people who are thinking in this way or who are beginning to think in this way, and then the number of people who are choosing to understand it more deeply, and a number of people who are, trying to dedicate their lives to understanding it and sharing it with others and all that. That I've seen it increase my entire life from a number which is more like a large family to a very pretty much international kind of scale where there's many people who are doing it in many different ways through their institutions, through their individual efforts. And so of course it's very visible, and it's visible to anyone who starts looking. Even because it's exponential, you can see it within a span of say even a year or a month or so.
Understood. Got it. So in next 5 years, I will find more people around me who knows this and understands it better, and giving more
Yeah,
thought to it.
I mean, suddenly I also didn't even realize how this happened. Suddenly you search Jeevan Vidya on YouTube and you have these IAS type tutorials that people have put up. I don't know how. I mean, people do whatever they know how to do to the best of their capacity. But that sort of thing was not available maybe 15 years ago. So because it's now part of engineering colleges, foundational courses, and other universities foundation courses or school curricula. So, people have developed their own methods of sharing it, or it's not necessarily always based on understanding, but essentially it's people are thinking along these lines and talking along these lines.
Understood.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Yes. We are on
Bye.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.